All right, friends, Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. And I am streaming live. You probably know my guest, Dr. Rupa Chari. She has been on this show many times. Dr. Chari, welcome back.
Thank you, Peggy. It's great to be back.
Well, Dr. Chari and I are both in Florida. We're on opposite coast. And before we hopped on the air, I was just remarking how healthy and beautiful she looks. And we feel that being in Florida is a healthy environment. At least it is for me. I look at images of myself a couple of years ago in the thick of all of the hogwash that we were going through, and I was really exhibiting a lot of stress. And stress can pack on the pounds. And that's what we're going to talk about in our show this evening. It's a little bit of a departure from the headlines, but Dr. Chari is always an ebullient presence, and she helps us steer away from the doom and gloom and the dread, and she always has healthy solutions. So welcome everybody who's hopping on. Let me know from Dr. Chari why so darn difficult, especially for women over the age of 45. I will put myself in the category, yes, I am over 45 and counting. So we've got a few things that we're going to dive into. And why don't you give your background, Dr. Chari, for those who may be meeting you for the first time?
Absolutely, Peggy. So my name is Peggy was saying, I'm Dr. Rupa Chari, and I'm a medical doctor and practice integrative medicine and functional medicine for over 25 years at our family-run center called the Chari Center of Health. And I have a virtual practice. And what integrative and functional medicine really is getting to the root cause, looking at a person in a holistic manner, physically, mentally, emotionally, see what may be affecting their health, creating symptoms and creating imbalances in their body. And then by combining nutrition and leading edge natural remedies, and we have wonderful wellness technologies that can really enhance our health and well-being and reverse
What made
potential
you
issues and balance their body and enhance their longevity with high quality of health, which is very important.
Well, I just want to say for anyone that may be hearing from me for the first time, Dr. Chari basically, well, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but she is not a part of the mainstream medical merry-go-round. She is an MD, and she also works with telehealth. And many people, like myself, found more freedom outside of California. And Dr. Chari is in that same category. So, for those of you that are wondering where she stands in terms of health freedom, let me just say that she stands on the side of health. And she has also been a guest in the private webinars where we can speak in a little more uncensored manner. And she has actually helped people that may have regretted certain choices over the last few years in terms of medical products or medical interventions. And I am so grateful, Dr. Chari, that you are all about really solutions and making sure that people don't have to go to the doctor when they're sick, staying healthy and staying healthy in a natural way. And before we go on to talk about losing weight and why that's so difficult, I do need to just take the microphone for a moment. Then I'm going to turn it all over to Dr. Chari, but I want to give a personal, really testimony, and also my husband. So David and I both are patients, I suppose you could say, clients of Dr. Chari's, and we actually had no problems, no medical problems, but we wanted to have more energy and feel better and make sure that we could make some healthy lifestyle choices, which I don't think should be governed by the government. They should be our individual choices. And we wanted to increase our energy, sleep better, and really enter into this next phase of life with as much mental acuity and physical strength and well-being and energy as possible. And David and I both have lost weight under Dr. Chari's protocols. This is not something that is very involved. It's actually very straightforward. And I'm just going to cut to the chase also and let you know that Dr. Chari offers it's a complimentary 15-minute consultation if you are interested in hopping on a phone call with her just to find out like what you can do to feel better. So there, I gave my personal experience. I'm so grateful for the way that you have helped guide me in food choices, getting a better night's sleep, and we can talk about some of those things. But enough about me. Everybody's here to listen to Dr. Chari. So why don't we start with the very first question, which is on my mind and on the mind of so many. Why is it so darn hard for women in particular to lose weight after about the age of 45 or older? What is going on? What are the mistakes that we're making?
Absolutely, Peggy. Actually, this was my own journey, personal journey as well. So I understand the frustration that's involved, despite doing all the right things, exercising, eating right, and still that belly fat is there, which affects us at a physical level, but also emotionally and how we socialize, what we do, and it affects every aspect of our life, you know? And so that's why it's a topic that's very dear to my heart and why I'm so passionate about working with women over 45 for this very reason. Because after literally cracking the code, then I ended up losing weight and it literally changed my life physically and emotionally. And there's many key reasons why this occurs. And as you were mentioning, Peggy, one of the key reasons also is related to stress. And especially in the past few years with everything that occurred, and then on top of that, with the hormonal changes that take place with stress, and this is not really talked about enough, but our emotions, our thoughts, I should say, lead to our emotions, leads to a physical effect, and that leads to a hormonal effect as well. So at the age of 45, as we're kind of going through different changes in our hormones in terms of our estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, some of the key hormones, also, then the levels of stress hormones may be increasing, like cortisol. And when our stress hormone levels increase, what happens is then it adds on belly fat. And I should say, how nature has evolved is that when our stress hormone levels go up and our belly fat is increased, what happens? And the reason for that is our body saying, okay, there's a danger. We need extra storage of belly fat in case, there's a famine, there's something going on where we need that extra fat. So there's a reason behind that actually happening. And so, looking at stress again, this is what happens with our nervous system. Our nervous system will say, in the divine intelligence of our body and the wisdom, will say, there's a stressor going on. Now, do we really need our female and male hormones, our estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone? Or do we need adrenaline and cortisol and other stress hormones to deal with the situation? It's going to err on the side of we need stress hormones to deal with the situation. And so that's another reason that in addition to over the years, as our, hormones decrease, our stress hormone levels increase. And so that all plays a role as that cortisol increases, then we have more belly fat. And then as we have dips and changes in our hormone levels too, that will cause the accumulation of weight too. That'll cause us to gain weight. And then metabolism slows down. And then we kind of get into this cycle. And the other third key reason is toxins. This is not talked about enough. I really feel as part and parcel of why we gain weight is our body also holds on to weight and fat as a way to kind of buffer and protect our organs from all the toxins we're exposed to, the chemical toxins, the heavy metals, and activity, electromagnetic frequency. I know the list goes on and on and on. But that's the other key reason as well, along with nutritional deficiencies, is another key reason.
Well, we are streaming live. So, those of you that are listening in the chat right now, let me know. Basically, raise your hand, drop a comment. Have you experienced increased levels of stress over the last several years? Regardless of what you went through, it really has taken a toll on so many people. And as I say, there are others that have, participated in certain medications and products that they may have regretted doing, and they are suffering because of this. And I remember when we spoke sometime previously too, people that are just on regular medications, like if they're taking, I don't know how you define regular, but what I mean is they've been given a prescription by their doctor. You help people get off the prescription drugs. And if somebody is on, I'm just pluck things out of the air like antidepressants or statins, would that also be causing this stubborn weight that people can't shed because of like pharmaceutical medicines?
Yes, well, with certain medications, yes, they that can actually cause weight gain. And so that's why I always love diving deeper to see why is a person gaining weight in the first place. That's very, very important. And that's why I really emphasize also that in addition to eating wholesome foods, because and again, going back to the stress, when we're under stress, what do? We try to reach for something sweet, and usually ends up being processed foods and other foods like that. And I always tell people that if you're reading a label and you can't pronounce what's on the label, odds are it's not good for you. It's full of chemicals. But yes, and that's why now everyone's talking about medications, to lose the weight. But then there's different injectables. I'm not going to mention any names, but that actually cause more havoc on the body and is still not really addressing the root cause and can cause us to lose muscle. And then there's other medications, and yes, antidepressants and a few other medications can definitely cause weight gain as well. So if we're able to really address the root cause, address the nutrition, clean out the toxins, balance the hormones, and stress management, do a few key things along with some other things we will be sharing with, that can make all the difference in the world to, again, literally reset our metabolism.
So, friends, let me know in a comment, do you turn to food under stress? I remember in the early, like 2020, 2021, I did a video about stop stress eating because I know that I was just turning to little snacks and things. I wasn't hungry. I thought it was a way of dealing with stress. It actually doesn't work. When I went through a period of grief, losing my animals, for the first week, I didn't eat anything at all. I was just couldn't even get out of bed. And then after that, I was trying to self-soothe with the food. And so let me know your snack of choice. But Gregory makes a really good point. And Greg, I wanted to mention this as well. For some people, it's not necessarily that they want to lose weight, but they actually want to feel better. And I'd like to pose that question for everyone. If you are looking to lose weight, maybe lose a few pounds or just have more energy, think about even beyond that. And I know you've talked about this before, Dr. Chari. So you may have a goal like, oh, I want to look better in my clothes, or I want to have more energy. But take that one step further and answer the question, why? Because for me, going deeper is more, I can feel more resolved to do it. So if I say the reason why I want to have more energy is so that I can research more information, prepare better videos, spend time traveling maybe, or running around the backyard with Sandy. If I go a little deeper, then I want to fit better in my clothes. Why? Well, because I don't want to buy any more and I like the clothes I have, and why? And then keep going. So I'd love to hear answers from those that are tuning in right now, or even if you're watching this as the replay, let me know in a comment. To me, when I went through my consultation with Dr. Chari, we talked about these things, like what is really going on. And there can be things in the past that you don't even realize are hampering you or hindering you going forward. So it's not always just, well, there's calories in, calories out, but there's so much more. There's the emotions that you talked about, our stress levels, and you're going to be addressing that. So for women, we've got the hormonal fluctuations for sure. Don't men go through some kind of hormonal fluctuations as well at a certain age?
Absolutely. They go through what they call andropause for women, menopause for men, andropause. And it's also related to the same kind of an idea. I mean, they also go through changes in their testosterone levels too. But here's another thing, Peggy, that's been happening is because of all the toxins we're exposed to and plastics. This is what I've seen is men are having higher and higher levels of estrogen. And
Wow.
so, yes, and that's contributing to belly fat as well and toxicity. And this has been alarming. And I'm finding this. That's why I routinely, I check very thorough lab work. And with men, I also, in addition to testosterone, check their estrogen levels. And I'm seeing a new trend of higher and higher estrogen levels in men. And that's, contributing to the belly fat. It's affecting their metabolism. It's affecting their prostate health and so many other issues. So it's equally as important to address, just as you're saying with men, as it is with women.
Yeah, I guess we could call it manopause.
Yes, that's right.
Menopause. So we know that stress, you mentioned the radiation, EMF, we know that we're bombarded with that. And I think you mentioned lack of sleep, which often is connected to the stress, things that we're taking in. There's, the dirty air, the spraying in the air, things that, the air is not clean. In Florida, they're getting rid of fluoride in the water, which is amazing, along with Utah. So that would be, I guess a toxin we can kind of take off the list. But what are some of the mistakes? So we know what's causing it. And then there are people that are going to try to do the injections for weight loss, or maybe cutting back on calories, what are the mistakes that people make?
So there's two key mistakes that I've seen, and especially with women over the age of 45 as they're going through the transition, it's over exercising and cutting back on calories.
Oh, isn't that the answer? Isn't that what Oprah told us to do?
Exactly. Exactly. Then that's the problem is that it's still, that message is still carried on through all of these years. And women are getting very frustrated because they're saying, wait a minute, I'm doing the same things I did in my 20s and 30s, exercising, eating right, all of those good things. But now nothing seems to be affecting, especially the belly weight and moving the scale at all. And so that creates more frustration and confusion. But what's happening is that, again, it goes back to so when our body's going through the transition, our ovaries are literally passing on the baton on to, let's say, our adrenal glands, one of the key organs for taking over and making our hormones. And so what happens is that if our adrenals are depleted, and I should say, really, there is, we talk about adrenal fatigue, but what it really is, Peggy, it's nervous system fatigue. It's our
Yes.
entire nervous system being exhausted and then instructing the adrenals, we can't keep going on with our foot on the accelerator. We have to put the brakes on or we're going to crash and burn. So what happens is it's not like the adrenals get tired, but it's the body's divine intelligence saying, we need to produce less of these hormones. Again, we need to see the situation here. We need to deal with the stress. And so again, our hormones get affected. But again, so that's why that's very important. So what happens is when women are over exercising or cutting calories too much, the body says, oh, wow, we are in more of a stressful situation. What ironically ends up happening is the body gets more inflamed and then cortisol levels go up more. We hold on to more of the weight, and then that leads to that conundrum. And that's why, as beautiful as intermittent fasting is, and breakfast is breaking a fast.
Mhm.
This is another key point is I tell women if you've been exhausted, depleted, you've gone through recent trauma or you're overcoming severe stress, and you just are not at how you usually function and feel so depleted, the last thing you should do then is, go and fast for a long period of time. You can build up to it, but what I say is really honor your body's intuition. When you wake up and you're feeling hungry, and again, you've been through a lot and you feel depleted, please eat some breakfast. What you eat I'll go into that in a little bit, but it's important to eat to give your body back the nourishment it needs to be able to rebuild, to be able to reset the metabolism and to be able to balance your hormones again.
Dr. Chari, I'm raising my hand because I have been one of these people in a cycle of, I guess you could call under eating and over exercising. I actually love to exercise. I teach water fitness classes, and I walk my dog, and I like to ride my bike and, swim and all of that stuff. So the activity for me, it wasn't always a factor, but I was falling for that restriction of calories. And the funny thing for me is, like, it seemed to work at the beginning, and then you hit the standstill, and then you're like, well, how much lower can I go? And I realized, and I think, we had some conversations about that, also increasing the amount of protein that my body needed. There are a couple of comments here about being addicted to carbs and going after the chocolate and brownies and sweet things. And I could not believe how much better I felt eating real food in normal quantities. And I had this thing where I felt guilty for eating like a normal person. It was very odd, but I don't think I'm alone. And skipping meals or trying to restrict, and then I wasn't binging per se, but I would tell myself, oh, I'm never going to eat this again. Well, that doesn't work, at least for me. So I know you have some tips about that as well, but I just wanted to acknowledge some of the comments here about the stressful situation. Either you're not hungry or you're going for the sweets. And I did not realize that my nervousness and the nervous eating was related to blood sugar swings. I thought I just had energy. It was the adrenals, like you say, trying to pump out the cortisol to keep me going on barely any food. And then what happened? Well, you basically saved my life. I had this severe nerve pain that prevented me from actually working for several weeks. And I literally was bedridden. And I did some different healing modalities with different healing practitioners that you recommended. But you said you reached the limit. Your body is telling you reached the limit, and you have got to make a change. And I did. So anybody that's listening, if you feel that you can relate to that story, I want you to go to, it's called Chari Center. And I think Rhonda will put a link there for us, charicenter.com. You can get a complimentary consultation. You can read about Dr. Chari, the women and men that she has helped. And it's a holistic, it's getting you off the prescriptions. It's helping you lose the weight without these risky injections that are grabbing all the headlines. So I just wanted to let people know, I'm called the Healthy American, and I want to be healthy, and I want to be healthy in a natural, wholesome way that doesn't include restriction. I have to say one other thing, and I know I'm hogging the microphone, but I'm going to hand it back to you. Dr. Chari and I and her brother and my husband all had a wonderful meal together of Indian food. And it was abundance. There was a lot of food, and I was really pleasantly surprised to see Dr. Chari's appetite and her brother's. There's no restriction. I'm talking about rice and every kind of Indian dish you could imagine, and it was delicious. And I also enjoyed savoring each bite, and that's something else Dr. Chari teaches about. So enough about my story, but I just wanted to let y'all know that I have been there. It's still daily choices that I go through, and that's why I'm so thrilled to talk about this. So what can we do? Struggling with the sweets, feeling overstressed, having the belly weight, not wanting to get these risky injections.
Yes, this is so important, Peggy. And what you mentioned, that it's not about denying also. If we think that something is being pulled away from us, that creates more stress. Life isn't like that. It's not all or nothing. It's just about moderation. And here's an interesting thing is that our sugar cravings will change depending on what we're eating. So they say that to avoid what they call naked carbs. In other words, like just say for breakfast, if someone were to eat only bread and jam, That's just pure carbs. But if you include some form of protein, some vegetable, some healthy fats, it can completely change the dynamic of even your sugar cravings. And that's the amazing thing, and will increase your energy. It will decrease your inflammation. You will build more lean muscle when you do healthy and, exercise. And that'll vary person to person and even day to day what type of exercise we should do. We think it has to be a certain amount every day in a certain way. But, just like life, some days you're going to feel like doing more, some days are doing less. That's why I always say honor your body. And I love that with yoga because it's, you never want to overdo anything. Just follow the intelligence of your body, see what it's speaking to you, and then do that accordingly. So let's say for breakfast, you include, avocado, maybe with some olive oil, and, maybe some form of protein. If you eat meat, eat, some form of protein. And the amount can vary. There's no set rule. Some days you feel like more, some days you feel like less. Or if someone is vegetarian, it could be lentils, a nice, thick, hearty lentil soup, and with different veggies as well. Because no matter what, it's very important. We need our fiber because the other key reason that we put on weight is because our gut is inflamed. When our gut is inflamed, we are not going to digest food as well, absorb the nutrients as well, and those key important vitamins and minerals aren't going to go to our cells. In addition, it causes an overgrowth of bad bacteria. We have that delicate balance of the good and bad, which is, like balance, like life is tricky. But when the overgrowth of the bad bacteria, or it could be yeast or fungus, parasites, etc., occurs, then what happens is that affects our hormone balance. That affects our metabolism. So that's why it's important to really honor our body. For some people, intermittent fasting may be fantastic. For other people, especially if you're undergoing a lot of stress, I would definitely not recommend it. I
Would
would
you
say, please.
could you just define that for people who don't know
Yes.
intermittent fasting? Because there's, water fast and juice fast and juice cleansing, but we hear about that intermittent fasting. So if we could just take a minute or two to explain that.
Absolutely. So again, it goes back to how breakfast is breaking a fast. So let's say a person has eaten dinner 7, 8 o'clock at night, and then they have breakfast, 12, 13, 14 hours later. You're literally breaking a fast. But now, what people are saying is, okay, maybe extend that fast. Maybe after dinner, don't have anything to eat until about 11 o'clock in the morning. And that can be your breakfast or early lunch, depending person to person again. And what they say with intermittent fasting, but make sure you're drinking water, they say the benefits with that are, decreases inflammation in the body. It helps the body to detoxify. It also helps your immune system to go after diseased cells that need to be cleared out of the body, and maybe potentially, boost your immune system to go after the bad guys and that may be roaming around in the body as well for clearing out infections. So there can be many incredible benefits with intermittent fasting, but I just can't emphasize enough, because I see this too often, is that women and men who are so stressed and so depleted nutritionally, have too many toxins, are not sleeping well, and they're noticing that weight gain, and then they're trying to do the intermittent fasting, and they say, oh, I'm feeling even more tired. I'm hungry in the morning, but I'm not eating because I think I should be fasting. It's like, no, honor your body. Your body's telling you what it needs. But the key is not to just have a carb load for breakfast. It's important. If you have some oatmeal, put in some nuts, put in what they call low glycemic fruits, which are sugars that don't spike up your blood sugar so fast, like all kinds of berries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. Put that in there with maybe some nuts and, things like that. So you get a little bit of protein, and then also, instead of dairy, there's so many substitutes nowadays as well, or just simply water. And so there's so many things you can do to get your carbs, to get your fats, to get your proteins. And I have to say, there really is no one size fits all because that can, again, vary day to day. Your body may want someday more carbs, some days less carbs. But in general, protein is so important. It's a building block for our body, whether it's from meat or whether it's from a vegetarian source like lentils, beans. You have to be a little bit careful because they're not digested as well. They need to be soaked ahead of time, for several hours and cooked ideally under a pressure cooker. But, lentils, frankly, you'll get more nutrients, more fiber, more protein, and it's in an easily digestible way as well. So it's important to have a balance, and that's the key with all the meals for that matter.
Well, I made a few notes here because everything you're saying, these are just gold nuggets here. You said, many of us were depleted nutritionally. So we could be overweight. We could be eating, but it doesn't mean that we're actually getting the nutrients that our body needs. And I think that can be part of the frustration. I remember, dieting when I was in college and I gave myself a calorie allotment, but I never thought about the quality of the food. And so I was living on things like that. It was really popular back then. Probably still is. Frozen yogurt, like you would go to the frozen yogurt shop, they would tell you the calories, and it's like it really had no nutritional value, but I was only counting the calories. And talking about fasting when you're depleted, to me it's like you want to remodel your kitchen, but all you keep doing is the jackhammer. Well, at a certain point, you have to lay down the tile and put in the cabinets and paint the walls. You can't just keep tearing it down. And the fasting can be beneficial. And then we've had chats before, Dr. Chari, and I want everybody to, again, go to charicenter.com or just get your free consultation, because one of the eye openers you did for me was about detoxing, because I love detoxing. I've done that for years. And you said, you don't detox to get healthy. You have to get healthy first in order to detox. And my brain just exploded because, well, we'll talk about that for about another minute or so, because most people have that all wrong.
Definitely. And I give the analogy, Peggy, I say, let's suppose you've been working 9 to 5 and you're going to have a party at 6 o'clock. You're tired. You're like, oh, I've got to clean this up. I'm just going to throw everything in the closet and hope no one opens that door. Then after everyone leaves, then you start putting things away. The same thing, if the body is has a certain reservoir of energy, it's going to say, you know what? We have all of these toxins on board. But what I'm going to do right now is put these toxins in nooks and crannies. And then once I have the reserve and have the nutrition and have the energy, then at that point, I'm going to start removing some of these toxins from the body and releasing them. So we need to build ourselves up first and then gently detoxify. A lot of people do a very intense detox and they end up getting what they call Herxheimer reaction. They get rashes or aches and pains and headaches and feel worse. It's because it's too much, too soon, too fast. The body can't process it, and that creates an additional stress on the body. So that's why I tell everyone, first rebuild and then gently detox. And then, as we were mentioning, balanced meals, because if we're getting too much sugar or too much carbs, insulin levels spike up. And when cortisol goes up, insulin levels go up. And then that's another reason why we hold on to belly fat. So by building ourselves up nutritionally, that's going to start decreasing the inflammation. Then you can gently detox to further decrease that inflammation and reset your metabolism and balance your hormones and literally have a complete different change in how you feel, your energy levels, how you sleep, your mood. Everything is affected because the gut is healing, the inflammation's going down, you're getting more nutrients, and actually our gut is critical for our health and well-being.
Well, you are the voice of reason, because we hear so often, carbs are the enemy. There's the low carb diet, the keto. And again, I'm sure people experiment with different things, but you also spoke about, it's okay to eat white rice. You don't have to eat the brown rice. When we went out to eat together and you ordered the white rice, and tell the audience why that is an okay choice.
Definitely, because what they found in Ayurveda also, which is an ancient medical science from India that dates back over 5,000 years, what they said is with brown rice, with the husk there, that can actually be harsh on the digestive system. And that's why in the olden days they would literally pound that out. And so long grain white rice is wonderful. That doesn't spike up the blood sugar. It's that short white rice that can spike up the blood sugar. And again, moderation in anything, but again, you balance it out. So even if you're eating white rice, or potatoes, you balance that out with some form of protein and always lots of vegetables to give you the fiber and to give you the nutrients and antioxidants. So again, it's all about balance. And what they're finding now is if we're not getting enough carbs, that can affect our thyroid in a negative manner and will affect our energy and so many other factors in our body and in our organs.
Well, I want to just take a moment to acknowledge the wonderful comments that are going on in the chat. Kathy and Mary and Tommy, Valerie, Rhonda, our moderators, you're so encouraging with your information, and that helps others that are watching and not participating, and that's absolutely fine too. I always look at the comments, and Real One wants to know, Dr. Chari, do you also work with women under 40 who may be having some issues?
Absolutely, absolutely. Women of any age and men too, for that matter. And women tend to bring their significant others to see me as well. But absolutely, women of any age.
Yes, and Ava has been speaking, making comments about her adrenal glands have been out of whack. There's nerves and stress, long-term stress. So let's talk about then how you work with individuals, what you do, how it's different, and so what people might be able to expect. And I know you're going to give us a couple of takeaways that we can do actually right away to start feeling better.
Definitely. So the way I work with women and men is I have them complete an online medical questionnaire that's very detailed. And it'll actually cause people to think about, oh, yeah, how different episodes in their life has affected their health and where they are today. And I go into detail of their nutrition, maybe supplements they're taking, medications. And because as a medical doctor, and because I practice functional integrated medicine, I know the best of both worlds. So I'm able to help people and guide them through what we need to do to help decrease. And ideally, my goal is to help get them off of their medication whenever possible. And then also, I do very extensive lab testing where my range of normal is here to here, not here to here. So we catch things early, are very proactive, and then I can guide them on what we need to do and what specific issues they have, combining nutrition and very leading edge, remarkable natural remedies that's customized for them specifically. I don't have one size fits all. Everybody's unique. We're all unique. And so that's why I customize programs for each person.
Well, Tommy says Dr. Chari is a treasure, and I agree. And Dr. Chari and I met back in 2020 when many people were seeking information about how to handle everything that was going on. And along with her brother and her beloved Mama Chari, who is now enjoying eternal glory, who provided such warmth and care for people who were struggling. And so that's how Dr. Charya and I met over the years, and we've stayed in touch. As I say, I personally have benefited from her support. And one of the most interesting things that you told me, which is so easy, and it's free, and everybody can do that, is you said just start to notice how different foods affect you. Because I didn't want to go through allergy testing and all of that. You said, you know, if you, some people want to do that. They want to go drill down to the very detailed how their body responds to different things. And you gave me a couple of tips. You said one thing that causes a lot of irritation for people is corn. And some of the symptoms I was having, you said, you know, I try getting off corn, you know, of course, living in California and eating Mexican food, corn and corn chips, corn tortillas, that's like my national food. And you said, just see how that works for you. and it was amazing. And I noticed how certain foods affected me. And I didn't do any allergy testing, but to this day, I notice if because I'm aware of what's going on in my body. So, what are a couple of things that you can help us with? Right. Oh, I have to say one other thing because this was huge too. Dr. Chari said, when you get up in the morning, just walk 10 minutes that way and then turn around and walk 10 minutes back home. She said, just do that before you do anything. Because I would get up. I hope no one else is doing this, but I would get up and what would I do? I would be on my computer or on my phone, fielding people's emails and concerns and, trying to help people. And I would think to myself, I'll do my activity later. Well, guess what? Later is like tomorrow because I would sit down and never get up. So those two things, and we did many other, but I just wanted to let everybody know personally, Dr. Chari, how much those simple things helped me. And it's enjoyable. There's no deprivation. It's all about feeling better. So what else can we add to that?
Yes, well, that's such an important point, Peggy, is that because I realize first thing in the morning, if I think the best care that you can give yourself is self-care. And this is what I had to really, I learned myself because I would do the same thing, immediately go start answering, returning phone calls and going to the computer before starting the workday. And then I changed everything. And that's what I shared with you. And thank you for bringing that up today is that I realized the greatest gift you can give anyone is taking care of yourself. That is the number one thing you can do. Self-love, self-care. So in the morning, get some fresh air and sunshine. That is so important. You know, Peggy, what they used to do, and I don't know if they're still doing this, but they did in Europe, they would have centers, healing centers, where everybody would actually just lay out in the sun all day. And it was reversing so many of these medical conditions because the sun provides us not only with vitamin D, we hear a lot about that, but there's so many other frequencies that are not talked about and changes that occur and healing changes that occur within our body by getting exposed to the sunlight plus the fresh air. And I told people if you don't have time, just put on your tennis shoes 5 minutes here
Right.
and there.
Yeah.
Just really. And it
And it
does.
feels good. It feels great. And you got your oxygen going and you're clearing your mind. And before you know it, you want to go further. And that's a healthy addiction, right?
Yeah.
Let me know, friends, if you do that. Do you have a walking routine or a morning routine that does not include getting on the computer?
And that's true because as you walk, you're increasing your blood flow, circulation, oxygenation, you're getting that fresh sunshine and vitamin D, but it also does something emotionally. Yes, it also releases endorphins, but when you give back to yourself, and take care of yourself, it does something more than anything that we can figure out on a lab test or anything
Right.
else, and for that matter, because it's about giving back to yourself. I can't emphasize that enough. It'll change your workday, it'll change your mood, it'll change everything, and then it'll change your outlook, which then will lower your stress hormones, boost your metabolism, help you balance your hormones just by giving back to yourself first thing in the morning. Make sure, even if it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you do something to take care of yourself. And then in the morning, again, depending on your situation, if you are intermittent fasting, then you can, wait a little bit before having your first meal. It'll depend, or you can have a smoothie and you can make a smoothie. I always encourage people don't put too many fruits in there and use blueberries. You can use spinach and things of that nature as well to make a nice refreshing drink.
Love that.
That also is beneficial and maybe some collagen. And as far as other things that you can do is just make sure that your first meal again is not a carb overload and that you're balancing your meal with some kind of carbs, some kind of protein, and some kind of healthy fats. Healthy fats can be anything from, there's, believe it or not, I'm going to say the word butter,
I
grass-fed
love
butter,
butter.
right? This is what all of our ancestors were eating,
Right, right, right.
right? So grass-fed butter and also ghee, which is clarified butter, is very healthy for you. And you can use coconut oil, olive oil, all of these different oils, avocado oil as well. And you can vary the oils. You can change them with even every meal. It's not like we have to be set on any one thing. But balancing our proteins, carbs, and fats is the most important thing. And that could be something as simple as having an avocado and some form of protein. Again, whether it's meat or some lentils or even beans for that matter. And veggies. Make sure you're getting enough veggies. None of us are, and our soil is depleted, so we're having to eat a lot more. But it's very important because, again, going back to the gut, our gut, we have a universe of bacteria and bugs. Let me just call them bugs, of healthy bugs that are coexisting with us in harmony. And we need to increase the good guys so they can balance everything out. And that will take care of our immune system. 90% of our immune system is from the gut. So again, what we feed ourselves is going to be feeding and nourishing our gut and feeding and nourishing our cells. So that's very important. And when we balance the good and bad bacteria, that's going to also affect your mood. It's going to affect your immune system. It's going to affect your hormones, and it's going to affect how you detoxify the body. So each and every one of us has a unique uh, bugs in our body. Like what I have, you may not have, you have, I may not have, and so on. Just like we have unique thumbprints and fingerprints, we have unique bugs in our system. So by eating more variety of vegetables and colorful ones, you'll increase your own unique bacteria, which is going to also help boost your metabolism and help you get to a healthy weight where you have that energy and feel your best.
That is so amazing that we all have our unique uh, gut bacteria. And I like to think of like we have flowers and we have weeds, and we want to have more flowers than weeds. And we've got more people hopping on. Welcome on board, everyone. Dr. Chari she's an MD, but not a part of the mainstream medical merry-go-round. She specializes in anti-aging, in weight loss for women, in functional medicine, looking at the root causes of these imbalances. And Mighty Smart Mom said, "This is so funny. Menopause." She said, "I am making a lemon pie as I listen." Well, that's pretty good. In fact, I want everybody to drop a comment. We're going to hear more from Dr. Chari. But right now, I'm really curious to know, let me know, what time do you eat? What time is your first meal? And then let me know in a comment, what do you typically eat? Okay. So for myself, what I do, this is just my current time because I do teach water classes in the morning. So I have exercise in the morning, and I do have about half a cup of black coffee. And I have well, this is something I probably want to change, but I do have it's pretty healthy. It's a protein bar, but not like one of those candy bars. This is like a quinoa, um, and I'm getting off the pea protein you told me to be aware of, the pea protein. And this has, and it's not soy. I've got to look at the label. Actually, I've got it right here. And it is, it's got peanut butter, so that's okay for me. And the fat and the protein is 10 grams of protein and 7 grams of fat. I just do that before I exercise. And then about 11 o'clock, I do have a smoothie. And something that I've been doing lately is an egg white protein. It's a powdered egg white, so I'm not using the pea protein anymore. And then I put in, some fruit and veggies, and that really sustains me for a while. So that's my breakfast. What about you guys? I want to hear what you're doing. Sea Whale has beetroot powder and matcha. Wow, Valerie's like me. She eats at about 11 a.m. That's just kind of when I get hungry. Okay, here's a question for you, Dr. Chari. What about berberine supplement and inositol for blood sugar balancing? What do you think about that?
Yes, so berberine they're calling nature's natural, and I won't name the name of that
Okay,
pharmaceutical drug.
one of those risky shots
Yeah,
for
exactly.
weight loss, the weight loss shots.
For exactly weight loss, exactly. So berberine is wonderful. Berberine actually has so many health benefits. One of which is, so when I was mentioning before, when our stress hormone levels go up, like cortisol, and let's say insulin levels go up, that can cause also weight gain. As inflammation goes up, stress goes up, those other hormones go up, and that causes weight gain, especially that belly fat. So what berberine does, so they call something, it's called insulin resistance. That's when insulin levels may be high, a person's blood sugar may be high, insulin levels go high, go up. But what also happens is, so insulin is coming down to the cell, knocking on the door, and the cell says, I don't know who you are. And so the body makes more and more. And as insulin levels go up, then we gain weight. So what this does, what berberine does, is it makes the cells sensitive. Like we have keyholes, they're called receptors. So insulin you can think of as a key, and the receptor is a keyhole. It goes in, makes a lock. And then what insulin does, one of its jobs is to have sugar from your bloodstream go into your cells so your cells can make energy. So when our insulin levels are too high and blood sugar is too high over a period of time, they say, okay, that can lead to type 2 diabetes. So what berberine does is it makes those cells sensitive to insulin. So when insulin comes down, it's able to make a lock and key. Then we're not having these spikes of insulin, which makes a big difference. And also, it's very important as we're going back to detoxing, is cleaning out those keyholes. They can get grimied up and the key doesn't fit quite as well. That's another reason why we see hormone imbalances. What they're saying now, which is so interesting, Peggy, is they're saying, is it really that we're low in hormones? Of course, we may be low in some hormones, or is it that the hormones are there and they're trying to fit in, make, with the key, make a nice fit in that keyhole, but they're not able to because that keyhole is grimied up with toxins. And if we clean that out, maybe then the hormones can, like thyroid hormone, female, male hormones, insulin, etc., can go in and make a good fit. And then we get, balance our hormones, boost our metabolism, lose weight. So, but berberine also helps to sensitize the cells. It also to insulin. It also can help balance blood sugar. It also helps to clear parasites from the body. And when we have an overgrowth of candida, parasites, again, and going back to the gut again, that can slow down our metabolism. And these bugs put out a lot of toxins. So as we gently, gently clear those critters from our gut, then that can help boost our metabolism. So berberine has so many benefits. And then fiber. Fiber is so important, but you have to build up slowly. You don't want to eat too much fiber at once, otherwise people can get gas, bloating, sometimes constipation. So you want to kind of build that up, and that increases slowly the good guys to clear out the bad guys and help us with every function.
I'm glad you mentioned that again because I had forgotten. I know that it's good to have that, to have the fiber and the fibrous carbs, but I had forgotten that they actually feed the good bacteria. That's really a good reminder. And friends, if you have specific concerns about supplements, there's pros and cons on these things. That's where I really recommend talking to Dr. Chari. She's so generous with our healthy Americans. Again, she's a personal friend of mine, and I have had such great results doing consultations and learning about what my body needs, what it doesn't, why it's rejecting certain things. So reach out to her, and it's charicenter.com. And do you want to talk a little bit more about that, Dr. Chari, about the consultation, which you have so generously offered for my audience? I hope you're still doing that. I'm just saying it. You're going to be inundated now.
This is my pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
This is my pleasure. And I love teaching. I love educating. I love empowering people. I think just like you and your husband, Pastor David, do, you're always empowering people and with knowledge, and so they can have the big picture. And so, yes, so I offer a complimentary 15-minute consult where you can share what your health concerns are, and I can share with you what I feel may be taking place and that may be causing or contributing to whatever issues you may be having, and then share with you a general approach that on what you can do to help to reverse that.
Well, thank you so much for that. It is so great to know that there's someone like you that is solutions oriented. And as you can see, everyone, you have such a beautiful presence and you're so positive. And even though we've been through these rocky times over the years, you've always remained above the fray. I mean, seriously, you don't go for the doom and gloom. And that I really appreciate, because that is part of what causes the stress. And then we're in that cycle. I call it the spin cycle. And, not watching the headlines, not being addicted to your phone and having to see everything. Just watch The Healthy American. That's all the social media you need. So, any final tips in terms of what folks can do now? We talked about eating those balanced meals, about not doing the fasting if it doesn't feel that it's supporting for you, getting active in the morning, and you gave us some good examples of meals and so forth. Anything else that we can do as a takeaway?
I think it's so important, Peggy, that we all are gentle with ourselves. There's huge transformations that are taking place right now, and I know so many people are feeling very overwhelmed. And I just want to reassure everyone that we are living in beautiful times. There's incredible healing technologies that are coming out, incredible natural remedies that are available. And you're going to see just so much, we're going to have so much exposure to things that we might have even dreamed of before. And we're in the 21st century right now. I sometimes I get impatient, when are they coming? They're here. They're here, and we're going to keep learning about them. And with your show, it's beautiful because we can keep bringing exposure, giving exposure to these things. So I want everyone to just be gentle with themselves, understand that it's okay to take time out for yourself. It's okay to really kind of unplug yourself from everything going on. And most importantly, don't feel like everything's all or nothing. Just know that it's so important. I can't emphasize this enough, that it's important to treat ourselves with love, care, and compassion first, and make sure that your cup is full and that you are doing what you love to do. And it could be anything. Make sure on the weekends, at least, even 5 minutes every day, do something fun just for
Yes.
yourself. And on the weekends, take some time out for yourself just to go out in nature, reconnect with your loved ones, have fun with your friends and family. Do what supports you from your soul. Because yes, there's wonderful nutrition, there's exercise, but it's also giving and nurturing our soul is equally as important for our quality of life.
That is so well said. And God gifted us with one precious body, one precious life. And our society might misconstrue your statement to say that that's selfish. And there is a message in our culture that you should put everyone else first and then yourself last. But you're not even able to be as effective doing sharing the gifts that God has blessed you with, sharing your talents, like you are an excellent teacher. Friends, if you do go through Dr. Chari's protocol, as I have, she'll go into great detail explaining how the body works and what's wrong with yours and how it can work better. So she is gifted as a teacher. But imagine if she skimped on sleep and was addicted to the headlines and drank coffee in the morning, for hours, scrolling through social media. She would not be able to be of service to others. So taking care of your one precious body, your one precious life, I believe honors God in doing so. And then you can be more effective. I wanted to really address that head on because I know I've struggled with that in the past. So many people in our audience are compassionate, which is why they're here. They care about our country. They care about people. They want to help alleviate suffering. And there's so much giving and doing. I have people here volunteering day in, day out as the moderators. And so we do like to hear your message about taking a break, taking care of ourselves. It's actually the greatest thing that you can do for others. How does this sound? But put yourself first to help others. But it is so true. And so we need to really acknowledge that. I just had I've made so many notes from our interview. So friends, please go back and watch this interview again, even if you were here throughout the whole live stream. Those of you that are in our private webinars, I like to thank you for supporting me. You can go back and watch Dr. Chari's guest appearance on our webinar sometime back. And you know what, Dr. Chari, we need to do that again. Have you back on, and we can go a little bit more of a deep dive if you have questions about certain products that are out there that you may be concerned about, or loved ones. We can speak more openly in that private webinar. So go to charicenter.com. We've got a link for you there. And Eve says it's great info. She's going to do the walking for 10 minutes in one direction. That's a great takeaway. Let me know, everybody, your takeaways for this wonderful get together that we've had with Dr. Chari. And they said there's so much information, great show tonight, and finding it very fascinating. So thank you, Dr. Chari. So grateful to have you. And I'll look forward to another get together. And friends, you know where to find me. It's over at peggyhall.substack.com. And we'll signing off for now. And thank you, everybody, for sticking with us throughout this interview. And I look forward to seeing you in tomorrow's broadcast. Thank you, Dr. Chari.
Thank you, Peggy.
Take care. Bye, everybody.